voice of God calls us to awaken him. How will he find us when he comes?
Awake and ready.
And when he asks us to dedicate ourselves ever more perfectly to him, how will he find us?
Awake and ready.
Divine Mother,
Divine Mother,
Heavenly Father,
Heavenly Father,
friend, beloved God,
friend, beloved God,
great masters,
great masters,
Jesus Christ,
Jesus Christ,
Babaji Krishna,
Babaji Krishna,
Lahiri Mahashaya,
Lahiri Mahashaya,
Swami Shri Yukteswar,
Swami Shri Yukteswar,
beloved Guru,
beloved Guru,
Paramahansa Yogananda,
Paramahansa Yogananda,
saints of all religions,
saints of all religions,
we humbly bow to you all.
we humbly bow to you all.
Divine Mother,
Divine Mother,
awaken our hearts,
awaken our hearts,
fill them with devotion,
fill them with devotion,
and all surrendering love
and all surrendering love
unto thee.
unto thee.
We are your children.
We are your children.
We long to know thee.
We long to know thee.
Be with us.
Be with us.
Act through us.
Act through us.
Speak through us.
Speak through us.
Infuse us
Infuse us
with thy presence.
with thy presence,
Now and always.
now and always.
Om.
Om.
Peace.
Peace.
Amen.
Amen.
Merry Christmas.
Merry Christmas to you all. Christ shines asleep, the silence is so deep that round about with hope in their eyes, the animals await, their breathing they abate, they know their time has come to arise. For Jesus came on earth to offer second birth to all who would the blessing receive. The inner peace he brings and lift us on soul wings to soar in light and heaven perceive. Our pleasures and pains, our losses, our gains, have kept us long bound, the ropes of yearning hemmed us round. We dreamed of imposing on desert sands, flower gardens of beauty, verdant vales of delight, imagination misted our sight. The freedom we would know, Christ offered long ago, and even from his slumber flows peace. All creatures here on earth, alive to their own worth, can welcome love and win their relief.
eyebrows as we listen to affirmations for self-healing on high-mindedness. People often speak of cynicism as the mark of realism. In fact, in a universe without any visible center, one might justifiably develop his understanding of it from any conceivable starting point. One's understanding, however, will only reflect who and what he himself is. A view from the depths lacks the perspective that can be achieved from the heights. From the mountaintop, all things are seen in their true proportion. Strive always to be a channel for high thoughts and inspirations. Never cooperate with anything petty or mean. Remember, the universe is for each human being both a mirror and an affirmation. One who entertains high thoughts will be himself ennobled. Let's affirm together. I will see goodness in everything.
I will see goodness in everything.
I will view the world around me.
I will view the world around me.
Not from the depths of matter attachment.
Not from the depths of matter attachment.
But from the heights of divine aspiration.
But from the heights of divine aspiration.
A little softer. I will see goodness in everything.
I will see goodness in everything.
I will view the world around me.
I will view the world around me.
Not from the depths of matter attachment.
Not from the depths of matter attachment.
But from the heights of divine aspiration.
But from the heights of divine aspiration.
Whisper now. I will see goodness in everything.
I will see goodness in everything.
I will view the world around me.
I will view the world around me.
Not from the depths of matter attachment. But from the heights of divine aspiration. Now mentally broadcasting from the Christ Center, I will see goodness in everything. I will view the world around me, not from the depths of matter attachment, but from the heights of divine aspiration. And pray silently with me. Lord, the universe was made in thy image of perfection. Help me to bring out that image in others by blessing them in thy love. Om. Peace.
Peace.
Amen.
Amen.
Good morning and happy Christmas again.
Good morning. Christmas.
Great to be with you all. It's beautiful when Christmas happens to fall on a Sunday, and so our service really is a Christmas service. Welcome to those joining online as well. This is week 52, the Divine Ascension from Rays of the One Light, weekly commentaries on the Bible and Bhagavad Gita by Swami Kriyananda. Truth is one and eternal. Realize oneness with it in your deathless self within. The following commentary is based on the teachings of Paramahansa Yogananda. In the Gospel of St. John, chapter 14, we read, I am the way, the truth, and the life. No man cometh unto the Father, but by me. What is this I, when spoken by a master who has conquered every vestige of ego consciousness? Therein lies the mystery of true scriptural teaching. That I that is no I. Does it even exist? In what way is it different from the consciousness that animates other human beings? Jesus was not saying, look at me, don't look at other masters. He was saying rather, look at the divine self that is the essence of who you are, your very self. You are that I. No man cometh unto the divine consciousness except by first recognizing his own intrinsic divinity hidden behind his delusive ego. The Bhagavad Gita in the 4th chapter states, O son of Prita Arjuna, in whatever way people accept me, in that same way do I appear to them. For all men, in some way, pursue the path to me. Meditate on the divine incarnations. Their lives and the consciousness animating them will be your stairway to the infinite. Thus, through Holy Scripture, God has spoken to mankind. I'd like to invite Padma up to share with us.
Good morning, everyone.
Good morning.
Merry Christmas to all. It's so wonderful to be with the Ananda family, with all of you. I'll share a reading from Master's Book of Whispers. Teach me to feel that all men are my brothers. O our own one Father, teach me to feel that all men are my brothers. Teach me to love all countries as brother nations to my own, as much so as the land to which I'm temporarily assigned by karmic law. Teach me above all to love those who love me not. Teach me to see thy presence in every erring brother. Teach me to heal as eagerly as I would be healed myself, those brothers who are steeped in ignorance. O Divine Mother, teach me never to rejoice in the segregation or punishment of an erring brother, even if he needs to be punished to protect from his tyranny those who otherwise are defenseless. Teach me to heal with kindness those who are misled, or let me correct them by my good example. Teach me to feel that even someone who does me mortal injury is my brother made in thy image. His ignorance is only temporary. Destroy in me every trace of vengefulness, including the quick tit-for-tat spirit. Teach me to try to heal, not to punish, my brothers who resort to crime. Let me not increase their ignorance by a wrong spirit of revenge. Teach me to improve all men by my own example of forgiveness, self-control, determination to do what is right, wisdom, encouragement toward goodness, and prayer, and above all, by thy love. I'd like to share with you, this is the season of giving. I'd like to share with you a story. So the story starts with Jean. She is very despondent, desolate, in despair, because she has lost her longtime friend, companion, husband. There has been a separation. And she finds herself all by herself. As Christmas is nearing, she feels more lonely, very sad. So she doesn't feel like doing any of the things that they had done all these years together, including decorating the Christmas tree. She did not offer to go out doing caroling. She didn't do that. She didn't take part in the play. She was feeling really dejected. And so one day in the evening, there was a doorbell. And so she goes to open the door, expecting a friend on the other side, but she was surprised there was no one on the other side. But there was this beautiful bag, gift bag left for her. So she brings it in thinking there's going to be a gift, opens it on the kitchen table. There was no gift inside, there was an envelope. And she opens it and she sees it's a story, so it's a story. And so she starts reading the story. A little boy in Denmark, he's new to the orphanage. And as he comes into the orphanage, he's told about this glorious Christmas that happens in the orphanage, and this beautiful Christmas tree that's lit up in the hallway with candles. Mind you, this boy hasn't really seen a real Christmas tree. All he's seen of it is through foggy windows of other people's living room. And so he and he listens to the other children telling him about this wondrous Christmas tree that'll be lit up with candles. And that's not it. They say, there's going to be this wonderful dinner will be served for us. It's going to be real stew with some real hot bread, fresh bread. And that's also not it. And last but not the least, we'll be given an orange. An orange, and the story ends there. And Jean was a little disappointed. She wanted the story to go further. Anyhow, the next day when she comes back from work, and there was this doorbell again. And she almost expectantly, kind of thinking, she knows what's coming her way, she opens, and sure enough, there was just another gift bag. And she opens it, and she finds another envelope, and the story continues. And so this boy was expectant for this Christmas day, and it arrives, and there was that beautiful tree. It was all lit up, and his eyes were glowing and shining with all the other children in the light of that candle. And as they stood in line, and he was the new inductee in that orphanage. So he was all the way at the back. He was kind of learning the ways of the orphanage. And everyone in front of him would, one by one, go up and receive an orange. For this boy, this orange is a wondrous thing. He has never tasted one. He has smelt it a couple of times in the market. Maybe once he had managed to put his finger on one of the skin, and he imagined for many days the beautiful, sweet and tangy smell that left on his finger. And he was yearning for that orange. And so the children in front of him would receive one and would say, thank you. And then came his turn. And as he looked up, the master who was giving out these gifts said, "Oh, my boy, I'm so sorry because you came much later. The list that we gave, this benefactor who gives us these gifts every year, there's just one less, and I'm sorry I don't have any for you this year. I promise you will get this next year." And the little boy was, of course, his heart was broken. He ran upstairs and he buried his face and then just had his sorrow into the pillow and was crying and sobbing uncontrollably. And there was a tap on his shoulder. And the tap grew a little stronger. He could not ignore it anymore. And as he lifted his face from the pillow, he found next to his bed, there was this tissue that had a piece of orange as a donation from all the children, and it made one whole orange. And he received that orange, that fruit. And as Jean read this, tears were streaming from her eyes. And she was looking into the bag, and sure enough, there was this chocolate orange, each separated out already, and she knew what she had to do. She made copies of this beautiful story, and she remembered all her friends. Mr. Humphrey, who was losing his sight as old age is coming, and she remembered the lady across from her house who was going to spend her first lonely Christmas because she lost her husband, and she remembered her running mate who is having a hard time trying to raise this difficult teenage. She's a single mom. And this other friend who's going through her second round of chemotherapy. And all these friends came up to her, and she realized she would give a piece of that orange. She wrapped each piece of orange together and gave a little bit of her to make that whole. And that is the spirit of giving in this season. And as we remember this, I think even more so for us, devotees on this path, as Master has taught us, the greatest giving, the most perfect giving is the giving of ourselves, is offering up our ego into that light of Christ consciousness for which Jesus Christ was born.
Dharmadevi and I are going to share briefly as well. Thank you, Padma, for telling that story. It reminds me of my mother, who in a way was my first teacher and guru, in India. That's how they say your first guru are your parents. And over the holidays, she always would make a lot of cookies. It was a big Italian thing. This cookie, the three wise men, the thumbprint, every cookie had a name. And she would always give a lot of cookies away. And so recently she went to the doctor and she brought cookies for the doctor. And the doctor was just dumbfounded. He said, "Are those for me?" And she said, "Yes, they're for you." And she said, it felt so good. She said, to feel, it makes me feel good to give. And it was just this little conversation I had with my mother about, a week or so ago, and it just made a deep impression on me that that's the spirit of Christmas, is that self-giving and not thinking. And I think that's one of the greatest lessons that I've learned from her. And Divine Mother has a funny sense of humor too. You're not always listening. At least I'm not always listening. I don't know about you. But Dharmadevi, right before service, said, "Can you give me a tissue?" So I went and got a piece of toilet paper, so I didn't see any tissues, and you pull it and you just get one sheet. You can't do anything. And she's like, "No." And she was trying to tell me there was a box of tissues, right above my head. And that's the way it's trying to be open. And the real, the coming of the Christ, remember this is the Holy Trinity. It's through the Divine Mother. Yeah, I love how on the altar we have Divine Mother right behind Christ. I don't know if you noticed that. And it's through, this is actually how the awakening that happens. How Master would quote the Bible, "To all those who received him, to them gave he the power to become the sons of God." It's that Kundalini power, right? It's that Divine Mother power, that Shakti that brings us that awakening. That's the power to, like that Christ child's asleep, the power to arise. Like Dharmadevi's new clothing, the t-shirts, the power to arise within us. And Master, I was meditating on this recently. How can we open ourselves in this way? He was talking about one of his disciples. I mentioned this last night. There was a man named Horace Gray who had a lot of physical disabilities. He could barely walk. He was a spastic. He couldn't talk without having prolonged stuttering. And Master one day said about Horace, Horace was outside, and he remarked to some of the other disciples, he said, "Horace is almost there. The Lord is satisfied with his devotion." And here was this man who was a seeming non-entity, who wasn't important in terms of the organization. But Master said that the Lord, Divine Mother, is satisfied with his devotion. And then one of the other disciples who was present said, well, he was trying to make sense of this man that he knew who was a very simple person in his mind. And he said, well, sir, it must be a very simple kind of devotion. And Master said, yes, that is the kind that God likes. It's the purity of heart. And we were just watching the Song of Bernadette. I don't know if you've seen that. Deeply, one of Master's favorite movies about the young woman in Lourdes who had the visions of the Divine Mother, and a young 14-year-old girl who just had this purity of heart, and the Divine Mother came to her. And that's what Master said. He was actually talking to one of his disciples one time, and he said, do you have visions of the Divine Mother and the saints? And the disciple said, oh no, sir. He said, they'll come to me when Divine Mother wills it. And he said, no, they'll come to you when your devotion is pure enough. When our hearts are open and pure enough, we have that natural magnetism that we draw the saints and Divine Mother to us. And the greatest saint that I met as the emissary of our Guru was Swami Kriyananda. And he acted in that way
one of the legacies, when he was asked, what's the legacy of Ananda, Swamiji said, kindness. And there's a song that we sing during Christmas as well, Dharmadevi and Keshava have sung it, The Shawl of Gold. And there's that one line, it's kindness softens the human heart. It's just the simple acts of kindness that demonstrate that integration of spirit into our lives. And I recall, I'll close with this, one time, one of the last times I met Swami, I had this gardenia. Gardenias have that wonderful aroma from the flowers. And I brought it over to Swamiji at the Crystal Hermitage. And his cousin was there, his cousin Bet, who actually met Master. Master said of her that she would be a great yogi and had been one in past lives, I believe. But anyway, Swami's cousin Bet was there when I gave him this flower. And Swamiji just said so simply, he said, Bet, this is my friend Phil. And it was just the simplest thing. It was just this, he was introducing me as his friend. And it sort of stopped me in my tracks because I thought, I'm his friend. He's my friend. He was the greatest friend I've ever had. And this is the power of the Divine Mother. The introduction, that's how Master would say, pray to me. I will intercede for you. And that's what the Divine Mother does. Remember, the Guru is the representative of Divine Mother. So pray to the Guru as Divine Mother, and then he will introduce you to the Christ, and he will say, this is my friend. God bless you.
So I was reflecting on the topic for this week, the Divine Ascension. I grew up Catholic, and I was brought to Catholic church every week by my mother. And I can't say that I was grateful to her at the time. I'm grateful to her now. And we had our Sunday school and everything before that, and it just didn't resonate with me. I just felt like the dogmatism, I couldn't get past the superficial layer on top. And so as a good Catholic mother, you at least get your child through confirmation. And then once you've gotten confirmed, then you can kind of go off on your own and do what you like. So 14 came, confirmation went, and I was then free from the Catholic Church. And then interestingly, I began meditating some years later, and this strange feeling within me started to come to the surface, and I was like, I feel like going back to church. And I'm like, I can't believe these words are coming out of my mouth. But I couldn't deny it. There it was. And week after week I would say, whoa, no, that's just crazy. And week after week though, I said, yeah, I want to go back to church. And so I went, and it happened to be the longest service of the year, which if you're Catholic, you know, it's Easter Vigil Mass, which is a good solid 3 hours. And so I figured there was a little thing in the back of my mind going, well, you're either going to hate it and you're going to just be really glad that you don't ever have to go again, or you'll love it. And sure enough, I loved it. And something within me was tuning in now on a much deeper level. I saw the superficiality. I saw the old stuck-up women kind of turn, ooh, what is she wearing to church? You know, that kind of thing that had turned me off so much before. And whose daughter is she? Oh, she's never been here in the past 10 years. You know, so there was that. But then I sat down and I started to meditate, and I said, God, let me just emanate your light into this sanctuary. And tuning in on that deeper level, suddenly I could feel everyone's devotion. that was there. I could feel the real purpose of why they were there. And it so touched my heart. I kept going back again and again each week. And I even started going to some classes that my mom was attending with the priest there that I had grown up with since I was 14. He had been there. And so this class in particular was on the Nicene Creed. And I don't know if you've heard of it, but it begins, I believe in one God, the Father, the Almighty. And so this was fascinating to me because here was the deeper teachings of kind of the mystical teachings of this thing I had heard every week, and it was, I believe in one God. It was very robotic how we said it, or at least how I said it. And so here he was talking about it, and we got to the part, I believe in one Lord Jesus Christ, the only begotten Son of God. And I raised my hand. Well, aren't we all children of God? Why does it say he's the only begotten? Why is that stressed so much? And the priest, I knew he was a very deeply spiritual man, and he kind of gave me a look like, that's a talk for another time. Because, and as I looked around, I saw some of those old stuffy ladies. and so he said, well, yes, we are all children of God, but we're a little different. And so they were, okay, yes, I can accept that. And I was like, well, yes, I can accept that too. And as I began to meditate more and studied the teachings of Yogananda, I felt this really strong attraction to Yogananda and his teachings. And there was this little part of me that was like, oh, but you've been going to church. Now I was a Eucharistic minister. I was, giving the communion and felt so much a part of this church. But here I felt like these teachings are mine, of Yogananda's, and he feels so close to me. And oh, but I don't want to be disloyal. And so I was having this conflict, and it came up very strongly for me. And one day I was meditating, and I said, you have to help me with this. I can't reconcile this within myself. And I don't want to be disloyal. I feel Jesus is my guru, and yet I feel such a strong draw to Yogananda. And there I was meditating, and I can't say this was a super conscious vision, but I felt I perceived this presence of Jesus, and he was like here. And then I felt this presence of Yogananda, and he was here. And I'm like, yeah, which one? Which one is it? And they just came together and just merged together into this light. And it was in a loving way, but also, are you crazy? We're one. You don't have to choose. I don't care what you call me. I am divine love. I'm omnipresence. And that was so important to me. It just cleared away all the fog of, oh, is it this one, is it that? And I remember later, years later, after I had been part of Ananda for quite a while and taken discipleship and everything, and my mom said to me, so, I thought you were a disciple of Jesus. How could you do this? And I said, well, Mom, I didn't know how she was going to take it. But I just said, let me share it with her. And I told her about this experience. And she said, oh, well, that's okay. As long as you feel like they're one, then I'm happy with that. Wow. I wasn't expecting it to go that well. But, it's true. And we played this talk of Yogananda. It's just a little excerpt at the all-day meditation and then Christmas Eve of him saying, and remind me of the first line.
Final realization.
With the final realization, there is no difference between any master and any master. And remember, the masters don't come to show us they're masters. I'm a master. No one can come unto the Father except through me, or me, or me. No, it's what Swamiji was talking about. That I is our own self. That I is our true self. And they come to show us our potential and how we can get there and be Christ-like as well. Merry Christmas.